at the same time. Oh my god, are you serious right now? You better have not done that in the other video. That's why the hat is always on her face. If you want, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be my November wrap up. I'm going to be talking about the books that I've read this month and the ones I'm currently reading, which is too many. Is it me or November went by really fast and really slow at the same time? I looked back at the list of the books that I finished. I'm like, that was this month. So yeah, let's go through the books because I have a few. Interesting month. I feel like we started pretty rough for most of the first couple books, but then things picked up towards the end of the month. So in order that I've read them, the first one I finished was The Girl from Widow Hills by Megan Miranda. This is my third book by the author, and I was in the mood for fall reading. I actually did a vlog and this was in there. I wasn't in the mood for really stressful mystery thrillers, and I find that her books are kind of chill, which might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I find her books kind of relaxing, but in a good way. Mystery. In this one, you're following a young woman who, when she was a kid, she disappeared for a couple days and she doesn't remember what happened, but it was a big thing. You know, people raised money, people tried to look for her for like those 3 days. And yeah, she still doesn't remember what happened, but to avoid all that press, all that popularity, I guess, she decides to move for work in a small town. All of her books happen in small towns, which is probably why I find them kind of relaxing, small town vibe. She's still kind of dealing with the events that happened to her, and then one day someone dies on her land. And you know what? I'm going to keep it vague. Better that way. So you're trying to figure out who did it. Did she do it? Did someone else do it? Why? And a few different possibilities. I thought it was well done. I did enjoy it. I think I'm going to give it 3.5. They're just really solid books for me, you know? I find that I'm kind of difficult with mystery thrillers. I really love them, but it's rare for me to have books that I find consistent, like from the same author. But her, I always know that I'm going to enjoy it. So I also finished Normal People, which if you've seen my video about my Goodreads Choice Award, award show, you know how I feel about it. Let's just say it again because it's my favorite way of saying it. Whoever was responsible for the marketing deserves a raise because this was so fucking boring. I feel so mean when I say it that way, but that's exactly how I feel. I read this book as an audiobook, and at the end, I kept accelerating the speed because I could not do it. I hated every second of it. And I know like people either love it or hate it, and I'm definitely in the hate it part. And I had planned on reading it because I wanted to watch the TV show, which apparently is even better. Look, I wanted to, but it will not happen. Like, I have other ones to watch. I'm currently finishing The Queen's Gambit. So good, so good. I would watch that before, you know? So yeah, I don't watch a lot of TV shows. I tend to read, but I will just not waste my time because I hate it every second. You're following these two teenagers and then, throughout their young adult lives. And I don't like the trope of miscommunication. I don't like, a lot of it was character driven, so I feel like I can't say too much without kind of ruining it. For me to enjoy this kind of book, I have to either care about the characters or where the story is going or the topic or something. I care about none of it, so it was basically torture for me. No, 1 star. I don't do that often, but 1 star. The next book I ended up not finishing, The Year of the Witching. I love witches. I keep saying that I want to have more recommendation of books about witches or magical school because I do want to do a video on these topics. But I didn't realize it was happening during the Puritan times, which I don't care for. I always find that the books are very slow and they just don't appeal for me. They just never work for me. I also was listening to that one as an audiobook and I decided to put it down at 60%. I couldn't do it. I just didn't care. So yeah, it's unfortunate because apparently it picks up later on, but I was done. So did not finish that one. Then I was very excited to read One by One by Ruth Ware, which I shouldn't have been. I have read a couple books by the author and I find that they're kind of hit and miss. I feel like she's really good at setting like weird atmospheric kind of books, but her endings are kind of so-so. And that's kind of what happened with this one. You're following this work team that they develop an app basically, and there are some investors. They're trying to decide if they're going to sell it or not. They have to vote. So they go to this remote cottage to ski, and avalanche happens. They're stuck there. Murder mystery happen. which, you know, fine premise, but it was just kind of boring, and I wasn't really surprised with who did it, kind of thing. Obviously spoiler free, but it just left me just, you know, you're reading it and you're like, okay, that's the next thing. So I have no feelings basically about this book. Another one that I read that I was excited to read, shouldn't have been, is Mallory by Josh Malerman. I feel like I have the unpopular opinion that I actually kind of liked Bird Box. I didn't like the ending because I feel like that's kind of spoiler, so I'm not going to say it. But I liked the premise, you know, kind of apocalyptic book where something happens, people, whenever they see whatever that is, they kill the people, they kill themselves, so people have to hide inside, you know, hide behind their drapes, put headscarves in their eyes, whatever. And I thought the movie was actually well done too, so again, unpopular opinion. But this book was announced, I think it was supposed to come out last year actually at first, but you know, it came out this year, so I picked it up pretty quickly. And whenever authors bring a second book, whenever it was a standalone, I feel like it's never good. I tried it, well, I read it, and I feel like once again, it's more of a coming of age for children of Mallory. I just didn't really care that much. There were like one or two things that I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's somewhat interesting. But other than that, I don't feel like it answered more questions that much. I don't feel like whatever happens at the end was that, you know, mind-blowing or, you know, didn't reveal any big secrets. And I'm still left unsatisfied, and frankly I just feel like it was kind of pointless. Again, my opinion, I know some people did like it, but for me it was kind of just a waste of time, so did not care for it. Last book I didn't like, and after that we have a couple I did like, so bear with me. Quickly with Malice, it's one of those books that I had on my shelf for the longest time. It's a YA mystery, and I picked it up because it seemed a fairly quick read. It's like 300 pages, and I just wanted to know how I would personally feel, plus I kind of liked the thumbnail. Why do I keep saying that when I talk about this book? I like the cover. You follow this teenage girl who wakes up in the hospital, doesn't remember what happened, but she was in a car accident with her best friend and she died. And people are not sure what happened. She's basically being accused of murdering her. And, you know, Italy, romance, stuff happens. And throughout the whole book, I was kind of mad about it. The ending was the best part in my opinion, and I'm kind of just mad about it, to be honest. I read it, it's done. I will probably forget about it pretty quickly, to be honest. Now, let's talk about a few the books that were good, and then the ones I'm currently reading, which are also good. The first one I finish in the good ones is Gideon the Knight. Finally! I have been meaning to read that book forever. I eventually learned how to pronounce that name in English. Do you not miss me saying Gideon? So originally this book was sold to me as a book about lesbian necromancers, which made it an automatic need to read. Did not really disappoint on that part. The magic system, do you call it a magic system? The superpowers, whatever, were interesting. So the main character tries to escape a life of basically servitude, and she is offered her freedom in exchange for going to a different planet to participate basically in competition to become a servant of the resurrection. So she goes there, it's a competition, it's kind of a trial, and that part was definitely interesting, that kind of mystery, but then some people start being murdered and who did it kind of thing. It was interesting. My only complaints are Gideon was like unlikable, but not in like an interesting way. I found she was overly edgy and like swearing a little too much kind of thing, trying to sound edgy, which didn't really work. I felt like it would push a little to the extreme, but still, I'm intrigued to continue the series. The ending was so strange though, that I have no idea how that's going to work for book 2. So we'll read it. Still kind of confused about it, but I believe I'm going to give it a 4 stars. It's hard to talk about that book. It's just so weird. Ooh, the other book that I finished is a nonfiction, which was good, and it is The Uninhabitable Earth. Basically a book about climate change. Obviously a pretty terrifying book to read about, but still interesting topic. The author in the beginning was kind of optimistic, like it really stood out to me. It was like, okay, saying, oh, you know, because it's man-made, we can definitely deal with it, but who knows? A few parts that stood out also to me would be the fact that it was saying how the fact that the end of the world discourse is often associated with the crazy and the cult is just not helping, you know? How are you supposed to convince people when you associate like the end of the world with the crazies? And the thing that was equally interesting and terrifying is the fact that there are negative cognitive effects based on the increase of heat, like direct heat, H's, or the quality of air. So basically pollution makes us like dumber and dumber. I mean, think about it. Like in theory, it sounds kind of crazy, but if you think trying to work and think when it's really hot and humid, it's hard. So it makes sense, but like it's scary. Anyway, yeah, interesting book. Definitely some mentions of pandemic. Be warned, it was published last year, so they didn't know. But yeah. So yeah, these are the books that I finished this month. I have 3 that I'm currently reading because right. The first one is the one that I'm actively listening to, and it is The House in the Cerulean Sea, which was one of the nominees, is one of the nominees in the fantasy category on the Goodreads Choice Award of this year. And I wasn't sure if I was going to pick it up or not, just because it looked a little bit like a children's book. But everyone was raving about it, so I decided to pick it up, and so far so good. I'm about 40% into it, and I am intrigued. I'm getting kind of vibes of Wayward Children. Like you have this really straight edge man who goes to this orphanage where there are interesting kids. I'm gonna keep it vague to not spoil anything. And he has to go there to decide if the orphanage can stay open or not. And he seems like it's gonna be the trope of like, not an old man, but you know, the same kind of trope that I usually mention, old men that, you know, softens up around kids kind of thing. Again, he's not old, but you get it. So the one I was listening to before that, and we'll go back to listen to when I'm done with it, is How to Change Your Mind, What the New Science of Psychedelics Teaches Us About Consciousness, Dying, Addiction, Depression, and Transcendence. Whew, that's a long title. Have you seen this other cover? It's so much prettier than the one I had seen. Anyway, it's about drugs, magic mushrooms and stuff, LSD. But they're kind of exploring the benefits, mental health mainly, and how for some people can be really life-changing. So interesting so far. I'm not super far into it. Actually, let me double check. I'm only 13% into it. So we'll definitely finish that in December. And then last but not least, I'm also reading The Ark, although it's out now, The Burning God, the last book in the Puppy War series. I'm not super far into it. I'm planning on trying to do a reading vlog on it. We'll see how that goes. But so far so good. I'm probably like 10% into it. I've been dying to see how this book series is going to end. I really like the magic system based on gods, and I feel like the story has become bigger and bigger with each book, so I'm curious if it's going to be well wrapped up. I'm kind of noticing a pattern that third books are often the weakest ones in series, so hopefully it's not the case with that one. So yeah, I've been dying to finish it, so we'll hopefully do that before the end of the month, so I can include it possibly in my best books of the year. Hopefully it makes it there. So yeah, that's gonna be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thumbs up, subscribe. I will be putting more videos on the screen that I recommend you check out, and I will see you in my next video soon. Bye. Definitely let me know the best books you've read this month. I had a pretty so-so month, as you see, but still, not too bad.